In my impression, my dad has always been a serious, dull businessman, but by chance, I actually discovered a secret that was completely different from his usual. One evening, I was a bit bored, so I planned to browse around the website. I didn't know what to search for. After all, I didn't have any interesting characters around me, so I decided to search for my parents. I searched my dad's name first, and surprisingly, I came up with a whole bunch of pictures of drag queens. His name was exactly the same as my dad's, but I'm sure it was definitely not my dad, because my dad is a rather serious businessman, with no sense of humor whatsoever. I clicked on the first link, and 4 drag queens appeared in the picture. They looked quite glamorous, with long, shiny eyelashes, heavy makeup, and looked glittering. As I was about to close the site, I was drawn to a poster that featured none other than the one with the same name as my dad. Since then, I've been thinking about this drag queen with the same name as my dad. I logged on to Ins to search for his name, and found that he also had an Ins account, which was strange, because in a way he did remind me of my dad. He had a certain quality about him, but he wasn't like my dad at all. I started following him on Ins, but I had to delete my browsing history before I went to bed to prevent my dad from somehow accessing my account. My dad was a serious guy, and he was often in different states on business, so I only got to see him on Sundays for lunch. As I drifted off to sleep, I thought how great it would be if my dad was a little bit like the drag queen he shared his name with, so the atmosphere between us would be much lighter. When I came to school the next day, I couldn't resist checking out the drag queen's Ins, and I spent the whole day engrossed in his videos, because he was as funny as a comedian. After a few weeks, I found that I became a fan of his, and will do anything to see him perform. It was a weekend, and this drag queen had a show, but only people of a certain age could get into the show, so I couldn't. So I asked my cousin to go with me as my guardian. My cousin, who is gay, would probably enjoy a show like this, but he temporarily missed his appointment. I had no choice but to arrive dressed up and mature on purpose. Luckily, the ticket checkers weren't strict, and they didn't look at me, let alone check my identity card. It was my first time participating in a drag show, and I was actually very nervous about not being able to fit in until the show started, and I slowly calmed down. Soon, I was mesmerized by a show where the first person to come out was the queen, who was hilarious and made me feel relaxed. After the show, I planned to go to the bathroom. I had drunk a whole bottle of soda earlier because I was so nervous, so I had to pee. When I came back from the bathroom, I realized that I had missed the appearance of the drag queen with the same name as my dad. By then, he was already standing on the stage, and I didn't want to interrupt his performance, so I didn't go back to my seat, but stood by and enjoyed his amazing performance. There was a magical energy about him that made me want to get close to him, and his voice and movements were perfect. After his first song, I planned to take this opportunity to return to my seat. Just then, the drag queen noticed me. I felt his gaze, so I looked at him too. I instantly realized it was my dad, which shocked me, so I planned to go outside for some air. My dad was trying to perform, but he was not as calm as before. I realized that my dad wasn't really going on a business trip, but had been performing here. I didn't know why he was living this life, or if my mom knew about this. I wanted to talk to him, so I mustered up the courage to dial him twice, but I couldn't get through. The next morning, we met at the door of my room. He looked very awkward, and in fact, I was a little. He explained to me how he liked the cross-dressing process, and then apologized to me. I told him that he didn't need to apologize. In fact, I prefer a dad who is energetic and charismatic on stage to a serious and stodgy one. However, I was worried. I thought that all the people who participated in this cross-dressing were gay, so I asked my dad if my mom knew about it. To my surprise, my dad told me that my mom not only knew, but also really liked, and even helped him with the makeup. The more I learned about my dad's secret, the more I got to know him, and I have now become his #1 fan.